I was also quite taken and struck by the aspirations of traditional Chinese painting to exist both as a kind of external reality, a very vital measure of a circumstance in a moment in time, intersecting with a kind of inner mind, something that's practiced over a lifetime yet executed in a moment in this single irreversible pass of the brush. And the way in which Chinese ink painting in this style embodies circumstance and incarnates its artist simultaneously in that moment. And the artist, in fact, is unable to hide at that moment behind color, stylized form, utterly revealed in ink. In expanding on that point, I thought a lot of our discussion, and particularly the discussion I had with Eric, the points that Eric brought to the table, had a lot to do with the distinction between the Western mark and the Eastern stroke. And this came to the fore in discussing the works, the difference between ink as a type of stain, as a footprint, as a residue, as a trace, what I've been calling a kind of material index, as opposed to the stroke, which pulls very distinctly from a sort of disordered phenomena. In ink painting, the brush stroke seeks to capture the inner line of things that have no fixed form. These are the rocks, clouds, plum blossoms that vary. There are very specific strokes for each. But these are still at the same time held in mind by the artist. And the stroke in Chinese painting functions in many ways that would seem quite paradoxical to us in the US. It is both form and hue. Its brush is both instrument and gesture. Its stroke is both volume and rhythm. It's not a line without depth like we would consider to be an outline, nor is it simply following the silhouette of form. Rather, it's an animate stroke. And in this sense, it resolves the conflict between the representation of volume and the representation of movement. And this, for me, was very exciting as an architecture, as someone in architecture. The third correspondence that I noted had to do, and this was very much from my discussions with Jin, especially from the artist she showed, but more so from the dialogues we had following the event itself, was the latent correspondence between the Rorschach series and the projected drawing series, and the sort of spirit of body of Chinese painting, a kind of intertwining of a physiological state, a state of being present, in my instance, a very sort of almost neurophysiological state of perception, and an intertwining of that with the embodied phenomena of circumstance.